Hi, everyone. It's Professor Fernandez. I am here to talk a little bit about what your journals are going to look like and kind of go through the outline. So, journals are a little bit different in this class. Um, Remember that the whole point of this class is to look at literature, look at all rhetoric, and see how that has a conversation with the social issues that are going on in the world today. Um, so as a result, you'll need to go into the databases and look for news articles about that social issue that you're going to be using or going to be talking about, and seeing if how the writer um, talks about discusses that social issue is accurate, or um, a myriad of other opinions that you can have here. So I'm not going to go through what is a news article versus an opinion article. I've done two videos on that, and you're welcome to see them. They should be in your module or on my YouTube channel. But I want to go through the organization of this, because once you understand the organization, then you'll understand how everything fits, because you are going to be talking about the piece that you're reading for the semester. You are going to be taught, or the semester, the for this particular module, you are going to be talking about a news article that deals with a social issue. You are going to be doing some analysis, and you're wondering how all this is going to flow and how it's going to fit, and it can be a little bit daunting if you've never done this before. So I'm gonna um, go through the wonderful outline for you. The outline is in your assignment sheet, but if you've never read an outline before, don't know how outlines work, you're going to be really confused. So I'm doing this video for you guys. So let me do a screen share here. And get on the iPad. And we'll do a quick screen share here. All right, so you should be seeing what the actual outline is here. So what you have here are essentially five big paragraphs. You have the intro paragraph, the summary of the piece, the analysis of the piece, the summary of the news article, and your commentary. So you're probably going to wonder right now, well, how does this all look like actually in practice, not just in hypotheticals as you're explaining this? There should be an example, an annotated example that I have for you in your module as well. So you'll have all the videos, an example, you have this video. So you should do well. Do well. Of course, you are definitely welcome to email me, talk to me about it. Go to the writing lab. It's all good. Okay. So the thing with outlines is that you need to look at outlines more of a checklist rather than I have to put this here and have to put this here and have to put this here, right? Um it's an outline, not necessarily like architecture plans, right? It's really kind of puts everything where it needs to be and kind of gives you an idea where things are going to go in your journal or your paper, because you can use outlines for papers as well. Okay? So, I like to look at things in big chunks. So I like to look at big chunks like this. This is one paragraph. This is two paragraphs. This is a third paragraph, fourth, and the fifth, right? This one's an easy outline because it just numbers everything for you. Usually, sometimes outlines don't. Sometimes they're just blocks, where just like this is this paragraph, and this one's going to go here, and this is going to go here, and nothing is numbered and labeled, and that's okay. It's just different people brains function different ways. Okay. So let's look at that first paragraph, which is the introduction paragraph. Um, in the introduction paragraph, you're going to make sure that you name the piece, its author, the name of the news article, its author, and publication, and it should be mentioned in this paragraph, not in like paragraph 5, not in paragraph 2. It should be mentioned in the first paragraph. Okay. So when you see the example, you'll see how it's kind of outlined there. Um, what it doesn't say here is you're definitely going to introduce. You're going to introduce your journal. And there's several ways to do an introduction. You can do a rhetorical question. You can do a really cool quote that kind of captures the essence of what you're trying to say. You can open it up with like a scenario or an anecdote. So there's different ways to open up an introduction paragraph. What I like to say to students is you write this one last, because an introductory paragraph requires that you kind of know what you're going to talk about because it's the first paragraph, but you don't know what you're going to talk about until you're done writing. So I would not start with the introductory paragraph writing it. I would do that last, because then you can sit and think about, oh, this is what I thought about, and this is what I'm saying in this um, journal. How am I going to introduce what I'm going to say? So I would start with this last, but for the sake of purposes, we're going to start with this. So, you need all this stuff here. And B says the argument, social issue, and topic should be mentioned in this paragraph. If you're seeing this video at the beginning of my 1302, more than likely you're going to choose either the social issue or the topic. Because those are easy. You don't have to do a lot of deep diving to decide what letter from Birmingham jail is about, right? Or Usul at the stadium, or whatever we're going to be reading. Those are super easy. Once you get to the second half of the semester, where we've already talked about argument, you've learned how to do the rhetorical situation and the elements of argument and the elements of fiction and all that wonderful stuff. You're going to do argument there, right? But you don't have to worry about argument, what the argument of something is, until the second half of 1302. You don't have to think about that. If you feel the need to talk about it in the first half of the semester and want to try your hand at it, go for it. You may get a note from me saying this is not quite the argument, and you'll get like a listing of how to do an argument, and that's fine. But if you're trying to kind of get the lay of the land, and you kind of want to be on firm ground here, I would go social issue or topic for this. And that is actually your thesis. And your thesis is the last sentence of this paragraph. Look, you may have been taught to put your thesis as the first sentence in your introductory paragraph. And while that is good and great for other classes, bless your heart, please put this as the last sentence of your intro paragraph. Because as I am grading, the first thing I'm going to look at before I even read your intro, I don't read your intro until I read the thesis first. And when I read the thesis, that's when I know if you actually have a paper, because there's no reason to read the rest of the paper if there's no thesis. So that's where you put the thesis. I don't mean to put a huge emphasis on this, but what a thesis actually does here is that it tells the reader what you're actually going to talk about. That's it. That's all a thesis does, right? So I'm going to talk about the social issue of child endangerment in such and such, right? Um, I wouldn't word it that way. It's a pet peeve of mine, but that's kind of what the purpose of a thesis is, right? So that's what's going to go in the intro paragraph. Then you want to do the summary of the piece, and it's the piece that we have read. There'll be some weeks where you will have read probably three um, things, or some sections, especially if this is the beginning of 1302. I think you've read three essays, and you have to pick one of those three. So you just pick one. You just need one. You don't need to pick all of them, just one. So you just pick one piece here. And so you're going to do that, and then you're going to summarize this paragraph, and you're going to give me big details. I hope you can read that. I'm writing over things, so maybe I should choose another color here. Let's do an annoying green here. We need big details, right? Don't give me the little details, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then Cinderella went to the ball, and then da 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 da, whatever. I just need the big pieces here. Now, Don't underestimate this paragraph, because what I don't want you to do is do 2 to 3 sentences. I do want this to be a big, a good chunk to help me realize that you've actually read the piece, you understand the piece, you understand by your choices of summarization that these are the big details. And that usually revolves around 5 to 7 well-crafted sentences. And when I say well-crafted, I mean I don't want any fragments, I don't want any run-ons. I want you to write well-crafted sentences. Well-crafted sentences don't have to be long. I don't want any complex sentences either. So don't try to give me a bunch of conjunctions and a semicolon. By the way, don't use semicolons in your writing. Semicolons are awful, awful, awful punctuations. Very few people know how to use them correctly, and really you don't need them. So don't use semicolons. But I want really well crafted sentences, well written sentences. Okay. Subject, verb, direct object. You don't have to write me a novel here. Okay. It's not the point of the class. All right. So that's your first 2 paragraphs. Now let's talk about the analysis of the piece. So you're going to analyze the piece, and what is important is that you understand what you're actually analyzing here. So say you're analyzing a poem. And a poem, you'll go and you'll learn this if you haven't learned this already. You'll go through the rhetorical situation and you'll use the elements of poetry to analyze this. And then you'll talk about a couple of the pieces of analyzations that you used. Now, before you even get to this point, you need to analyze the piece first. And if it takes you 20 minutes to analyze the piece, you're doing it incorrectly. Especially if you're at the beginning of 1302, it's going to take you about an hour to do the entire rhetorical situation correctly. 45 minutes is the least. If you do this in 30, if you do this in 20, guaranteed you did it wrong. It doesn't matter how good of a student you are. It takes some time because this is a process and it is very formulaic, and you've never done it before. You're going to need to actually really do this as well as you possibly can so that you know what you're going to write about, right? So it always starts with the analysis of the piece. And then when you pick the analysis, when you've done the full analysis, right? You've done the entire steps of the 5-step rhetorical situation. You went and did the elements of whatever, depending on what you're reading. Then what you're going to do is that you're going to pick what you're going to write about. So, for example, if you're doing maybe a nonfiction piece like an essay, more than likely you're going to talk about maybe the rhetorical situation here, right? Maybe you're going to talk about an element, maybe the element of argument. These are 2 different things, by the way. The element of argument. And you're going to pick 1 or 2. That's it. This is not supposed to be 5 pages of just straight analysis, right? But it's also, don't give me like 5 to 7 sentences either. This right here, this is the money paragraph. This is the money paragraph, because this tells me whether you've actually done the rhetorical situation, whether you understand the actual piece, if you understand how the argument is made. That's the important thing, because it's not really about the argument and it's not really about what you think, at least not right now. This really tells me if you understand how the argument has been made. How a writer makes an argument, they can use literary terms, they can use the rhetorical situation, they can use elements of fiction, elements of argument, elements of poetry. It just depends. And so that tells me you understand. So you really need to think about this part. This is probably the part that's probably going to take you the most, and it may stress you out a little bit. But here's the wonderful thing. Um, there's nothing that is going to impede you from talking to your fellow classmates about this piece, or any pieces that we talk about. Now, this is what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to go and look up the story or the essay or whatever on Google and say, oh my gosh, there's a whole literary like analysis of Letter from Birmingham Jail. Bless your heart. because I'm not asking for a literary analysis. Um, all the literary analysis online, like the Cliff Notes and everything else, they're not going to help you for this class because I'm not asking for the literary. I'm asking for how the argument is made. And there are very few things on Google that actually are going to tell you that straight out. So, okay, so after you're done with the elements, after you're doing all this analysis, then you want to do your news article here, right? So remember, you had to look for a news article based on your social issue or your topic or whatever. So you want to do the summary of the news article here. You want to use the last name of the writer. And because the reader, i.e., me, has been enthralled by your analysis of the piece, remind me what the name of the article is. So you're also going to rewrite the name of the article. So, for example, you can say, in John Smith's article in the New York Times called X, right? Don't forget, of course, to put them in quotations, right? Because that's the correct MLA punctuation for an article in a newspaper. So you're going to talk about that, and all you're going to do is summarize this. And you're going to summarize this paragraph and state how it ties back to your topic or your social issue or your argument. That's it. You're not going to analyze the piece. Why? Because if you saw the videos about news versus opinion, there is no opinion in news. It's just the nuts and bolts. This is what's going on. So there's no reason to do an analysis on a news piece. The only analysis you're doing in your journal is going to be for the piece that we're reading, or that you've chosen for this particular journal. Okay. So you're just going to give me the big picture things, and you're going to tell me how it ties back to the social issue or the topic or the argument that you are saying is happening in this piece. Then this is the fun part. This is what everybody is like, yay, you're actually going to give me your opinion. You're going to give me your opinion on many things, right? You can give me your opinion on the topic, what you think about it, how the author has made the topic, whether the topic or social issue is reflected correctly or well or not well in the piece. Maybe the writer missed a certain thing about that social issue that you wish that the writer of the piece, not so much of the article, the writer of the piece actually talked about in their essay or poem or whatever. Tell me why. And please do not make this commentary like a short paragraph. This is also the other money paragraph here, right? Because this now tells me that you've actually thought about it. You actually had a really good think about this, and you're actually reflecting back on this. If you were an English 1301 at Kingwood, you were probably taught how to write a response essay or reflective essay, and those skills are actually going to help you here on your commentary paragraph, because those are the same skills that you're going to use here. I want you to reflect back on this. Maybe you reflect back on the writing, maybe reflect back on the social issue, and you're saying, wow, this is messed up. I didn't know this was happening, and how this writer is talking about it versus how the news article is talking about it really gives me a much deeper understanding of the social issue. Um, it helps also if you have like an action here. Maybe the social issue is about environmental issues, and you understand, maybe based on the story and based on the article, that um, environmental issues are getting out of hand, and maybe you are going to start looking to recycling, or maybe you're going to start looking into how much waste you're actually doing. Maybe you have an action plan here. Maybe you're thinking about, maybe I'm going to have to do a bigger dig on this or that, right? So those are some of the things I'm looking for in the commentary. I want you to notice the green stars here. There are some things I am looking for. Let me add this star here to this thesis here. That I will look at these, and when I determine grades, or whether I determine if this is a well written piece. Of course, I will look at grammar because this is English class and you have to look at grammar. But I really want to see these three things, because I will look at the thesis. I will definitely read this analysis piece. In fact, analysis is a big part of the grade for a journal, and I will look at your commentary, and I will see how that is all played together. And if that is done well, um, more than likely you'll get a really good grade on this. So I'm really excited to see what you're going to do with your journals. I hope that I've explained this well, and I hope I haven't scared you. Actually, it's the same. You'll write several journals for 1302, and it's the same process. I've not changed this process. Um, this outline is actually relatively new to spring 2021. I rolled it out in fall 2020 in the later half. So that was the only class that actually changed journals. But once the journal is set, that is set. So once you understand the actual process and the outline of it, it's going to be the same journal throughout the rest of the semester. Because what I really care about is your analysis and your commentary and how you are interacting with the pieces I'm putting in front of you. Okay. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me stop sharing here. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, this can be tricky. You will have many opportunities to do this well, many opportunities. There's a reason why we don't have three papers here. And the reason why we don't have three papers is that you have journals and you have discussion boards that make up that third paper. We only have two papers, and our two papers are short in this class, relatively short. I'm not going to say that they're one page. Your journals are actually 2 to 3 pages. Um, 2 to 3 pages, unless I've changed my mind, which is possible, in any given semester. But for spring 2021, I believe they're 2 to 3 pages, or 2.5 to 3 pages. And so there's a reason why we do the journals, other than it helps us understand the piece in a different aspect, in a different way. It also helps us to not do three papers for the semester, because you don't want that smoke. I don't want that smoke either. So I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know if you need any help, and I will see you guys in class. Bye.